of property. Obviously, you never want to see people throwing items at police officers or vice versa. You want to see the peace happening. And just as
we are going to go ahead and move away from David's shot there as they shift locations on site. But as David was saying, one of the things that echoed yesterday when we were speaking to the mayor of Charlotte, Vi Lyles, was saying that the situations that we're seeing, it is a national situation, but it is obviously impacting the city of Charlotte. But one of the things she reiterated was she wanted to make sure that the community stays safe. You can voice what you want. You can make your voice heard. We have the right to do so, but when it gets to a point where it is unsafe, that's the issue that city leaders have. We do want to go ahead, Alex, and get out to our Bria Bell, who is also live on scene, one of our reporters there tonight. Bria, can you give us an update as to what you are seeing as well?
So after I last talked to you guys, we talked about how police officers threw tear gas into the crowd. Now people are starting to itch back closer to officers. I want you to see what's going on right now. There are some people who are on their knees, kneeling with their hands up, I guess as a sign of symbolism in front of the officers. They're still yelling out, hands up, don't shoot. More people are just lining up to do the same thing, on their knees with their hands above their head, which is usually a command that a police officer gives in certain situations.
Bria, are they chanting anything, or are they just was this just kind of one person and then others followed, or was it kind of a discussion?
It looked like a domino effect. Two people did it, then there was a third, and now more people are lining up to do this.
And Bria, where exactly are you in relation to where we have checked in with you before? Are you still on the side of CMPD where there is kind of that, we see in the background, the large line of CMPD officers?
Yes, this is still on North Davison and East Trade Street, right in front of CMPD headquarters. Again, there's still officers in their tactical gear lined up at this corner, and this is where all of this is going on. I can tell you that moments ago, someone, the Federal Reserve is not too far from here either. Someone took down the American flag, flipped it upside down, and hung it back up. So that's something that someone just did maybe within the last 10 to 15 minutes.
Bria, I'm wondering, have you seen more people join the fray down there? I know it might be hard to tell. Can you tell if more people have come and kind of joined in on this?
It goes back and forth there. At first, it was dispersed and police had people backed up, and now some people are itching closer. I can't tell if there's more or less people out here right now. Everyone's kind of spread out from CMPD headquarters to the transit center, but there is a lot of people out here.
Bria, thank you. We want to check in with our other set of crews there as well. Paige Peroso is live there as we speak. So Paige, it looks like we can hear a helicopter above you, assuming that is the police helicopter, but what are you seeing as far as people in your area and crowd-wise?
Well, again, this is kind of where the crowd went to after they were dispersed from the police headquarters. And it's not, like Hodges was saying, or David was saying, that the crowds are not as organized here. It's people are kind of gathering, waiting to see what's going to happen. But just a few moments ago, we saw a little bit of chaos from the headquarters. You actually can see that in there's fireworks going off near the police headquarters. We've seen that multiple times where people have been throwing fireworks either on the street, near the crowds, or near police, and it creates a loud bang, and confusion, because people don't know exactly what it is at first. But you can see that this is clearly a firework here. But where that firework is kind of where that confusion came from a couple minutes ago when a crowd started running towards David and I. We were okay, but you're going to see the confusion that it causes in big crowds like this, and how things can change so fast and create sometimes a dangerous situation.
Paige, I know last night in your Beatties Ford Road, when we saw some other protests, you saw that there was the aftermath of some looting at a food line, a grocery store nearby. Have you guys seen any sort of destruction of property, any looting since you've been out there?
The whole night that I've been here, I've not seen any destruction of property. It's only been these crowds, and like I said, some fireworks, things like that. We've heard reports of possibly throwing things at police officers, but for property damage, we have not seen that here tonight. It's mostly people gathering and trying to get their voices heard and their message heard, and that is kind of what we're seeing here at the crowds tonight.
We're going to move away from you, Paige, as we kind of let you get to an area where you, if you feel a little bit safer, just kind of take a break for a moment as we check in with another crew from the other side. As we mentioned, we have many different crews out there tonight. This is a picture you can see there live. Obviously, CMPD has this road blocked off right there where CMPD headquarters is. This is really where we've kind of seen the targeted area of all of the activity since the sun has gone down, really. Earlier, we saw protesters who are on the interstate. They have since come off, and then once the sun set, it seems as if the crowd has really kind of moved into this area. So of Trade Street, if you're familiar, right in uptown Charlotte, Alex.
We've just jumped live pictures here. Of course, we've got a number of crews down there on the scene right now. It looks like we're seeing some officers now trying to get some folks to disperse. You see them kind of shoving these people back. We saw this last night as well. The police will kind of let you stand your ground for a little while, but they continue to tell the group, you need to get out of here. This is an unlawful assembly. And you just saw there an officer kind of shoving a couple people, trying to get them to back up. And I believe you're also seeing some of that gas that they continue to deploy, that chemical agent that we've been referencing. And you hear one of those, I believe, a flashbang go off too, possibly a firework. And they're getting folks to just kind of move back, get away from the CMPD headquarters. We see this line of officers. I think there's another line behind that, and that's what they kind of do. They move in waves and slowly just try to back the group up and push them away from the building. Chandler? And
we just got some new information from CMPD as we speak, Alex. Them tweeting out that 3 protesters have been arrested so far this evening. 2 have been arrested on gun charges. As you can see right there, they have someone detained on the ground. New information, 2 people have been arrested on gun charges, 1 with a handgun, the other with a rifle, and a 3rd subject was also charged with assaulting a government official. So as you can see, a lot of activity heating up. We did just zoom in, and it looks like a CMPD officer does have someone in handcuffs, or at least detained rather, on the ground there in the middle of the sidewalk. Again, this is happening in uptown Charlotte. Want to reiterate that information. Confirmed that 3 protesters have been arrested so far this evening, Alex, as we take a look at what's happening as we speak, as officers are moving this crowd, trying to kind of keep this crowd under wraps as we speak there.
Chandler, this is really the same tactic that we saw them using last night when there were protests that got a little bit too hostile. The officers line up and try to push the crowd back, try to get them to disperse. And just like last night, we did see some officers who had to detain some folks, and we would see them walk them back to the police precinct. It appears we're seeing that here outside of the CMPD headquarters in Uptown as well. The officers, we just saw detaining somebody who was on the ground. And as you can see there, the protesters start to back up when the CMPD uses these tactics. Just to kind of set the stage for folks who are watching at home, I know we've bounced around between a few different reporters who are kind of down there right now giving us live reports. These demonstrations, they occupy a big area. We're talking about a couple different city blocks here, and sometimes the perimeter of a building. In this case, it was the CMPD headquarters, so we like to have some folks in different vantage points, and of course they know they can do whatever they have to do to feel safe out there, get to a safe location where they can kind of tell us what they're seeing, what they're hearing. Again, we bring these to you live, these live images, these live reports, because this is a matter of public safety. We got large groups of people in the middle of uptown Charlotte kind of blocking the road. One of our live cameras right here appears to be, I believe this is one of the protesters, and looks like she's being given some water, trying to cool down, because of course the police have been using some of those chemical agents, trying to get people to back up. It chokes you up, it makes you cough, it makes it hard to breathe, but that's also why they use that stuff, to try and get people out of the area. Looks like our Paige Peroso is the reporter that we've been kind of following here from the live camera. She's kind of communicated to us back here. Our producer's letting us know she's trying to get to a safe location so she can give us an update on what she's been seeing down there. Of course, though, it does look like the CMPD has been on the move. You see them kind of marching there in the street, trying to get folks to disperse there. And as we bounce to another live camera, you see some of the officers there with people who are kind of in cuffs or zip-tied, arrested, and they're putting them in the back of one of these vehicles. We know there have been a few different arrests tonight. The CMPD, of course, doing this when they feel they need to. Chandler?
Right, exactly, Alex. And just to kind of get those numbers, since it is such new information that we got earlier, we did hear from CMPD saying one person was arrested on a possession of a firearm charge, concealed weapon. And now CMPD just coming in and saying 3 protesters have been arrested so far this evening. As we've been showing you, we've been seeing some of those arrests there, or at least detainments. This information is being updated from CMPD via their Twitter. That's how they communicate primarily, some breaking news information with us. But you can see, obviously, different types of crews handling this situation. We've been seeing them move the crowd, and we see a few of them there working as a team, obviously, and Alex, you saw this last night. There is a very strategic way that they're trying to move people and kind of get this crowd under control. And in some cases, it looks like it did get to the point where they had to detain some people.
Absolutely, Chandler. And it's not all at once that they do this. It's not like they decide, hey, we're going to get everybody out of here all at once. They kind of move like block by block, so to say, and the officers line up and try to force people back away from the area where they've gathered. And last night, it worked. They were on Beatty's Ford Road in front of one of the local police precincts, the Metro Division headquarters. A large group had gathered, and the CMPD officers did what they're doing right now, backed the group up through several blocks, and eventually that group started to disperse. People eventually, it seems, do get sick of getting, that tear gas kind of pushed in their face, and if they get too close to the officers will have to shove them back. Eventually, that tactic seems to be working. Again, we are in uptown Charlotte this evening. We've got following breaking news coverage because of these protests that have been happening. Chandler?
Right, and it looks like we are kind of shifting locations now significantly than what we saw before. So I'm going to check in with Jack, our producer, to see if we can maybe get a new vantage point. We do have several crews on the ground for you following this. Looks like we have Paige right there in front of the camera. So, Paige, where are you now? It looks like you have moved.
We're now on the intersection of Trade and Brevard. Now we've moved several blocks down as police have started to try and push the crowd down the block to continue trying to disperse this crowd. So police started at the CMPD headquarters, and now they're all the way over there as they continue to march on. They have used some chemical agents. It seems like some pepper bullets were used in the beginning as we kind of got that sensation as we were walking ahead, trying to get to a safe place to stay. We have seen some things get thrown at us. We did a water bottle just thrown at the police on the bikes here. We saw a little bit of that splash. We've seen a couple different water bottles, these plastic water bottles, be thrown at police as they move towards here. But otherwise, that has been pretty much the extent of anything that we've seen escalating more than that. So the pepper bullets, we hear some pepper bullets being sprayed right now. Again, police are in front of us, so we can't see that, but I can hear that pepper bullets are being sprayed. We got some movement again. A tear gas canister has just been thrown right there. You can see the smoke. Someone is diving into that area. I'm not sure exactly why, but that smoke, it seems like a tear gas canister was thrown into that area as we continue to monitor. Police are now moving to that location to kind of see, I guess, look at what that is. But yeah, we have a little bit of police movement here. They're breaking up their barricade, it seems. And moving. We are going across the street to get to a safer location here as police are now continuing to move. So we have another barricade line, a police barricade line are now moving and barricading in a different area. So this is a new barricade line with police. Now they're blocking off this intersection that people were previously standing in. So we have this line and then a line further down East Trade Street near the Spectrum Center, which is where the other police barricade is. Very loud bang of something just happened from down the street, not exactly where we are. We are, again, in a safe location for now on the sidewalk, trying to keep our distance from this action as it seems to be increasing and getting a little more intense as they continue to try to disperse these crowds and try to get them to break up the crowds. It does seem like some people are leaving. Saw a couple cars, people getting into their cars that were nearby and leaving, trying to get out. Some people walking down saying this is, they're done, they're leaving. So it seems like some of the crowds are dispersing, but there are still a lot of people on this side here. Some gatherings this way that are still here kind of waiting to see what happens and still doing those chants. We keep hearing that Black Lives Matter. They want their voices heard. That's so important to them, and that's why they're here. That's why they're sticking around as well.
Paige, a question for you. You were at Beatty's Ford last night when there was a protest going on. You're here now in Uptown. What are you feeling as compared to what the energy was last night and the movement that we've been seeing tonight compared to last night?
I would say the biggest difference for me, just being a witness here, is that we've moved a lot more. Beatty's Ford Road, I got there to the police station after police had it barricaded, and there wasn't as much movement from police that I saw, except when we saw the looting at that food line, and police moved there, but there wasn't as much action. We've seen, since I've been here, we've been almost all the way down Trade Street, several blocks of Uptown. That movement just keeps going, and it seems like it's not stopping. As police disperse the crowds, they're just moving down the streets, it seems like, and then police are following them, trying to disperse the crowd. So we've seen a lot of movement from police and these protesters here today as police continue to try to control the crowds here.
Paige, thank you. I believe we are trying to get CMPD Police Chief Kerr Putney on the phone with us as we speak, as we continue to take live pictures there. We see several different of our reporters at different vantage points. Bria, we're going to check in with you before we speak to the chief. Where are you located at the moment?
So we just got pushed back, forced back by police officers. They told us to go past this recycling bin. They had their pellets raised at us. This is as far as we can get, but as you can see, we're no longer in front of CMPD headquarters. We are closer to the transit center, and it looks like CMPD officers have pushed the protesters closer to the epicenter. I can't see any of the protesters at this point, but you can see they are very firm in what they're saying. They're taking a stance, and no one can get past here at this point. They have definitely cleared out the scene. You know, there's a couple of people lingering around, but nowhere near the crowd that we just saw moments ago.
Rio, Paige Peroso just mentioned that she was seeing some folks who are starting to call it quits, some of the protesters who are retreating for the night. Are you seeing the same thing? Does it look like some people are kind of turning in for the night?
For where I'm standing, that seems very possible because these officers aren't playing. They started shooting their pellets at us because that's how desperate they were for us to get back. We had our hands up. We were walking. We didn't know where they wanted us to go until we got there, and they stopped charging towards us. So if the protesters are going home, it makes sense because these officers aren't playing around.
Obviously a very tense situation out there, Bria. We appreciate you, being our eyes and ears and bringing us the sights of what you're seeing out there. Just